Social Security cost of living adjustments, COLA, are currently based on the CPI-W. It reflects the spending of working age adults. Switching to the CPI-E, which better captures retiree expenses, could lead to a higher cost of living adjustment. While these changes could strengthen your retirement income, it may also impact the program's long-term sustainability.
Welcome to Label on Fire with Amazon best-selling author and Yields for You portfolio manager, Label Sternbach. Label on Fire is supported by our ETFs, Yields for You Strategy A and Relative Strength Managed Volatility. Our mission is to help 1 million people retire with financial security. Now, the Financial Independence and Retirement Show dedicated to helping you build the life of your dreams as fast as possible with as little stress as possible. It's Label on Fire.
Hello again, everyone, and welcome to this episode of Label on Fire. I'm Freddie Bell, and I'm happy to be joined with Label Sternbach. He's Amazon's best-selling author of the book entitled Living with Financial Anxiety. I'm happy to be with you, Label. Welcome back to the show.
Hey, how are you doing?
Unbelievable. Can you explain what the CPI-E is and how it would change Social Security benefits compared to the CPI-W?
Well, let's take a step back even further. Let's just talk about what the CPI is in general, and then why there are all these letters after all of them, right?
Yes.
So CPI is calculated by the Department of Labor Bureau of Statistics, and it is one of those metrics that the Federal Reserve and lots of government agencies use to make decisions based on. The Consumer Price Index, which is what CPI stands for, is a measure of how much things cost for people, right? So when the government wants to say, how much should we allocate for welfare? How much should we allocate for supplementing government programs or whatever it is? They look at, okay, what's the cost of living for people in different areas? And that's how they'll allocate dollars, right? Make sense?
Yes.
So in the beginning, we only had CPI. And then, what happened was people started saying, well, CPI takes a look at all kinds of things, and it has all these kind of volatile numbers in it, like the price of gas, right? The price of gas changes on a regular basis, right? And when we want to make kind of like, a baseline adjustment, we don't want to adjust it based on something that'll change from one year to the next or one season to the next. We want more stable numbers. So the Bureau of Labor and Statistics started coming out with new numbers. And they started saying, okay, we're going to exclude volatile things, right? So we're going to exclude things like food and energy and, other volatile measures or whatever they call volatile. And we'll get more of a baseline number, which is all fine and good. But then people started saying, well, what about people who live in cities? People who live in cities have different costs of living than people who live in, rural areas, right? Makes sense, right? Cities are expensive to live in. You got, cost of goods are, probably twice just because you're in the city. Got to pay tolls and all that kind of stuff. So they came out with CPI-W, which is for urban working people, right? So what does the average white collar worker pay, right? Or blue collar worker in a city pay to live off of? Of course, it excludes so-called volatile things like the cost of food and energy and, all the things we need to live off of. So right now, right, you've got Social Security, which gets adjusted for inflation every year, which is a good thing, right? We wanted to increase and make it so that, what you paid for last year, you can keep paying for. We don't want people to suddenly, go broke who are on Social Security. Unfortunately, though, it doesn't tend to keep pace with inflation because the things that people actually need to live off of aren't properly reflected in there. And so the last few years, some years it has been more than what inflation was, and some years it's been significantly less. And historically, Social Security has not kept up with inflation because it excluded all the things that actually cause inflation, like energy. Healthcare is another one of those things that isn't properly reflected because inflation for healthcare is not included in those numbers. And healthcare has had double-digit inflation numbers for like the last 25 years. So not even close to being included in that number. Anyways, the difference between CPI-W, CPI-E, or whatever it is basically it's the government monkeying around with what cost of a living adjustment is based on to if they tell you it's a good thing for you, it's probably not a good thing for you. It's probably a way for them to reduce the amount that they're paying out and do it in a way while they're telling you that in theory, you're going to get more money.
It seems like you're subtracting the things that matter the most to most people in retirement.
That is exactly right. That is generally what it is. And no matter how you cut it, none of the CPI numbers are a proper reflection of what retirees are paying, because retirees, the inflation experienced by retirees is very different than the inflation experienced by everyone else. And as far as I know, the Bureau of Labor and Statistics doesn't actually calculate a number specific for retirees of what they experience, right? Because medical costs is a big one for retirees. You have food is a big one. Energy is a big one. They're home all day. Working people are not home all day, right? Like the whole daylight savings time is based on the fact that people would go to one office and would save energy by making people be out of the house for daylight hours. But that goes out the window for retirees, right? Probably goes out of the window for the state of Florida too. So
it does. We're talking about CPI. So is there really one that's more fair than the other in all actuality, Label?
In all actuality, not in my opinion. Again, when people propose things like CPI-E or CPI-W was supposed to be a more fair reflection, I think it was CPI-M before. It's all supposed to be a more fair number for retirees. But I am always, when the government proposes changes to Social Security, I'm always a skeptic. And what's interesting is you'll have people who propose good changes to Social Security and they never get enacted. And then you have the people who are very loud and get things passed for Social Security, and they are never good for retirees. So if it's at the end of the day, if it's something good, it's almost not worth reading about because it's not going to happen, or it's not going to happen in a way that impacts enough people to make a difference.
So talk about the benefit increases to be a 20 to 30 year retirement. Is there a big impact in that span of time that we're talking about?
So interestingly enough, no, because government being government, they use a different number for adjusting wages for inflation. And the Social Security Administration has their own way of figuring that one out. And it's not directly tied to CPI. It's based on wage indexes. And so they look at what the average wage increase is, and then they'll index your older wages so that it increases by that. But that's a completely different number. I don't think it'll have a direct impact if it does. Having said that, again, I think anyone who's 20 or 30 years out from Social Security has already concluded that Social Security is not going to be there for them. Mm-hmm. So I don't think any of us in that age bracket are counting on any of these numbers. And let's face it, right? They're talking about increasing Social Security filing ages, retirement ages already. They're talking about making 70 the new earliest retirement. Like, who knows what it's going to be by time people in my age bracket actually retire.
Interesting. So I know there's been a lot of talk about the Consumer Price Index E. Where does that stand right now? Do you think it really has a chance of being adopted?
Do I think it has a chance of adopted? Unlikely, but possibly. It depends on when So I think what it really comes down to is that there's two people who can influence that, or two agencies that can influence that. I think the Social Security trustees can influence that. If they create a report and they say that this will help solve the Social Security solvency problem, and they say that by switching to this, it's going to impact their adjustments for inflation in a positive way, positive for them, not positive for you, that it might get adopted. I think the other people who can probably make that happen as well in terms of adoption of these metrics, it probably the trustees, or it's going to be the Department of Treasury, right? The Social Security Administration, indirectly the Social Security Administration, because if they say, again, it's going to change how much they actually have to pay out, that's going to balance the budget, right? It's going to, right now, Social Security is paying out more than it takes in. Social Security is a Ponzi scheme, and it's based on that you need to have more people working than paying out. Right? Like any good Ponzi scheme, you have more people paying in and new investors than you are paying out to old investors. And Right now, we're kind of flipping that script because we have more retirees than we have people who are working. We also have a population crisis, right? We have a problem that we don't have enough people of working age paying into the system, and we don't have enough babies being born to fund this future problem. And those are fundamental problems, right? Like, so changing CPI-W to CPI-E or whatever, that'll help push that problem down the road, maybe by a few years. But fundamentally, it's not going to solve the problem that Social Security is set up as a Ponzi scheme, and they cannot properly invest their money to overcome that. So structural problems with the program.
Is there anything at yieldsforyou.com or on CPI-E or W?
We don't have anything specifically about that, but I'm going to point you to our retirement tax SWOT analysis, right? That is where we take a look at those things and how they impact you. I think, again, right, these are fundamental core issues that we need to worry about, and we need to worry about how does inflation impact your long-term ability to retire and stay retired. I think Social Security will always be able to pay out its bills because it needs to, at least for the next 30 years, and I should say for existing beneficiaries, right? If you're retiring in the next 5 years, I think you're fine. I think if you're retiring more than 5 years out, you're at risk of not being able to get the amount of money that you expect from Social Security. And those are things that need to be modeled for you. And even if you're an existing beneficiary or you're soon going to be a beneficiary, we need to make sure that in 10 or 15 years from now, that you are able to supplement Social Security and that your retirement savings can keep up, because there is a very good chance that Social Security will not keep pace for inflation, as well as that your savings won't keep pace with inflation, right? And so you need to make sure that you kind of overkill on the growth to be able to combat that.
Makes a lot of sense. We got to leave it right there. But as you've heard, switching Social Security cost of living adjustments to CPI-E could lead to higher benefits by better reflecting retiree spending, especially on healthcare and on housing. While this shift could boost retirement security, it could also add to pressure to the program's long-term funding, as Label just mentioned. The idea remains under active debate with no final decision yet made.
If you would like to see how the Yields for You team can help you get off the Wall Street roller coaster and save you money on taxes so you can live the life of your dreams, book an appointment online at yieldsforyou.com or call 410-914-4894.
Yields for You is a registered investment advisor in the state of New York and only transacts business in states where the firm is properly registered or is excluded or exempted from registration requirements. Registration as an investment advisor is not an endorsement. Information presented on this program is believed to be factual and up to date, but we do not guarantee its accuracy, and it should not be regarded as a complete analysis of the subjects discussed. Discussion should not be construed as an offer to buy or sell or solicitation of any offer to buy or sell the investments mentioned. Annuity guarantees are subject to the claims paying ability of the issuing insurance company. Content should not be viewed as legal or tax advice. Always consult an attorney or tax professional regarding your specific legal or tax situation.